Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Rainbow. In this case, we're going to talk about the story of TAKODA Hayden Collins. He was born on February 18th of 2008. At the time of his tragic ending, he was 10 years old. So, TAKODA, he started off with a rough start. Even though he was a happy one as a baby, there was a situation that happened within the home of his mother that the boyfriend had spanked him, and the CPS had got involved. And so within that, he was removed from the home. So during that time, a family friend had got TAKODA and their fiance. TAKODA's mother often visit. And during this time, TAKODA's dad wasn't around. Dad had not called, visit, or anything. But somehow the dad was notified. Dad took a DNA test. The family friend that had TAKODA had been trying to get custody of him from the age of 11 months until he was about 4 years old. TAKODA had been in 3 different foster homes, and somehow Dad ended up getting TAKODA. At that time, TAKODA was in Pennsylvania, but then Dad moved to Ohio. Dad lived with his girlfriend in which the home she had owned. TAKODA was the youngest of 3 by the dad. At one point, one of his older brothers did live in the home. Eventually, the dad's girlfriend moved in the home, which it was asked of her to move in to help out with the children, and that she could have her dog, and they would provide for her as well. Eventually, TAKODA's 3-year-old uncle came into the home as well. TAKODA went to school sometimes as a emotional child, but well-rounded. He was very helpful, liked to make people laugh, as well as he wanted a lot of attention regardless of how he got it, as well as he aimed to try to please others. Sometimes TAKODA would go to himself, maybe in a corner, and cry. The staff at the school noticed that TAKODA was always hungry and that his clothes was dirty and that he had a certain smell to him. It was a smell that either when you don't wash your clothes or you use the bathroom on yourself type of thing, and it dried up on you. The staff was nice enough. They would give him extra food during lunchtime. And even with the program, they had the backpack program that usually on Fridays, you take a bag of different items that they have already pre-packed. He would take it home. The staff will also give TAKODA change of clothes as well as wash the clothes that he came to school with in. TAKODA dad would come up to the school screaming and making scenes, stating that they were going against his wishes as well as questioning his son. Dad did not want the school to give him the extra food or for him to even go to the nurse's office. One of the members of the school remembered the school bus driver making reports of TAKODA coming to the bus stop with weird haircuts and in a diaper. His dad wanted daily reports from the school, and if TAKODA didn't act what was considered the dad's standard, he would be disciplined. And TAKODA, as most children, there's going to be something that happens. Times when the teachers would tell TAKODA that they were calling his dad, he would seem very frightened. He would straighten up and beg them not to call his dad. TAKODA's dad claimed that TAKODA had mental and behavioral problems, but no one seen them out of the home besides him and those who claimed in the home he had them. TAKODA's dad and his girlfriend went up to the school around about May 2018, and she stated that she was stepmom. and that they were disenrolling him in school from school and that he would be homeschooled. Even though they weren't married, she provided falsified educational documents. The abuse had been going on, which TAKODA would wear long sleeves and pants. But of course, now that he was not enrolled in school, the abuse kicked in full force. The abuse had got so much that once, allegedly, TAKODA had jumped out a window, that he had hurt his leg. He came home with the cast, but when he came home, part of the room had been makeshift. That particular window was boarded up. During that time, TAKODA was to stay where they could see him, per se, because he really couldn't get up the steps. Around about the next day, on November of 2018, the police was called for some reason, and TAKODA was kind of limping, but the police didn't see a cast, which the dad had claimed that TAKODA had cut it off. Again, TAKODA was put in another room due to him healing. There was a plan put in place by the hospital, which it was a psychological plan, but Dad had declined the help. Once he realized it was more of a therapeutic approach versus just TAKODA being locked up like an animal. The mom would call sometimes to talk to TAKODA, but the calls became less and less, and unknown to her that they weren't in Pennsylvania. She, I guess, kind of started digging around and found the dad had been arrested on a DUI, and so that's how she was able to find out that they were in Ohio. Times talking to the dad, mom said would state, "Hey, you better come get him before I hurt him or kill him, and you never see him again." He will also tell the mother the ways that he would discipline and beat TAKODA, and he thought TAKODA was gay and that he was going to drop him off at a group home. The mother had reached out to authorities several times asking for a welfare check on her son and to talk to him without Dad around, because of course she believed he would be scared to talk around his dad. Oftentimes the dad would not answer when authorities called or came, or if he did, he would schedule the visits. Times he would tell TAKODA to hide or to pretend to be happy and to be quiet. Once the people had left, he would beat, throw, kick, and body slam him. In the home, there were many pictures of the family besides TAKODA, including even family pets. There were no clothes or toys age appropriate for TAKODA. TAKODA was forced for about 2 years to sleep in a dirty attic with a cement floor and crates that was more set up for a dog. He was only able to come out at night when the 3-year-old uncle was asleep because allegedly TAKODA had tried to do inappropriate things around him. On December the 13th, 2019, Dad called 911 calmly, saying his son was unresponsive and that there was a certain something coming out of his nose or mouth. He tried to explain to 911 that his son had behavioral and mental issues, like laying in his own poop and urine and hurting himself. The operator had to kind of cut him off and see what was going on right in that moment. He stated he had tried to blow into TAKODA's mouth and it smelled rotten. The dispatcher told him to do chest depressions and to perform CPR. You could hear him gagging as if he was going to or had already threw up due to the smell. By the time that officials got there, he met them outside, leaving his son alone on the floor. When officials got there, they had seen bruises on TAKODA. Some were new but some were as well as old. There was blood splattered on the walls. Dad was asked to step outside. In a normal voice, Dad asked, was he deceased at the hospital? Once Dad was told that he would be interviewed due to a homicide, he asked a silly question. Does that mean it was premeditated? During the interview, they had TAKODA's dad, the girlfriend, and her sister. During the interviews, the dad and the girlfriend, they didn't have much to say. They were more so trying to portray TAKODA as being a child that had a lot of issues. They said that he was pooping on himself, putting in places, as well as peeing on himself, as well as putting things up his rear. They wanted him to seem unusual. Between the sister and footage from an iPad, it told another story. There had been cameras set up in the room that TAKODA was in, as well as outside, but unfortunately, it was considered to only have live footage. The sister originally started stating that she would give TAKODA Pampers and shorts, but all he would do was continue to soil them. The treatment that TAKODA endured literally happened in all sorts of ways and all over his body. Trigger warning. There was name calling, such as mommy's girl or girls' names. He was forced to eat feces and punished if didn't, made to stand with legs crossed but bent over to touch the ground. He was elbowed in the gut, punched, kicked. He was even tased. Daily use of cologne and hot sauce was put on his private parts to burn in the hopes of what they allegedly stated to stop using the bathroom on himself. The dad gave an example of when he was younger and sucking his thumb. If your thumb sucker, a lot of the times, they will put hot sauce on your thumb to keep you from sucking your thumb. He was made to stand in other awkward poses as the adults watched from the TV screen of the camera footage and punished him if he changed positions. From the time he woke up to the wee hours in the morning, he was forced to lay down on his stomach while Dad would stand on top of him and make sure he bared all of his over 200 pounds weight onto TAKODA. There were spankings, forced to stay in a corner, in a room without lights. He was hit with a spatula and a wooden chair, legs detached, forced up his rectum. There were times that same chair, when the legs were attached, that the chair was placed upside down with the legs sticking up in the air, that TAKODA was forced to sit on the legs with his legs wide open. After the autopsy was concluded, that TAKODA Collins was deceased due to blunt force trauma in combination of compressive asphyxia and water submersion. He had hundreds of cuts and lacerations and bruises, old and new, which a lot of the bruises were in defensive spots that was normally hard to bruise or for it to even have bruising. So, for instance, if not bruised, if I was to put my arm up to block a person trying to punch me. So whether I got hit right here or right here, it's not a normal spot somebody really gets hurt at. The bruises were from head to toe, pretty much his whole body. There were tears in the rectum, large amounts of water in his system, as well as feces. There was deep bruising to all areas of the head, buttocks, bruised to the bone, had severe external and internal injury, severe pulmonary edema, fluid in the lungs. His back had branding with 4 letters, with the first letter starting with a T. There was severe bruising to the back of the neck, deep bruising through the layer of the neck muscle directly over the spine, which was stated only seen in events like severe car accidents. It was showed that TAKODA had prior rib fractures that wasn't in his prior medical records, pruning of his hands due to being in the water for long term, bruises hitting in his hair, upper and lower lip, and in the nasal opening. There was a lot of blood in his pelvic area. It was stated that morning, TAKODA had came down kind of stumbling. He was either using the bathroom or wet, and the dad had elbowed him in the back and started beating him. You could hear the tub, and it sounded like he was drowning him, as well as telling TAKODA he was going to drown him. He then lifted him up and threw him. He had made him lay down with his hands behind his back. The girlfriend said she could see eventually that TAKODA was on his side. She couldn't really tell what was going on, but she could see like a hand motion. He then told TAKODA to get up. During that time, he was no longer breathing. The girlfriend and her sister had went to Walgreens. I believe the girlfriend was trying to get advice on what to do. When they had arrived back home, the police was on site. The dad pled guilty to murder, kidnapping, rape, and child endangerment. He was sentenced to 51 years to life. He will be about 83 before he's eligible for parole. The sister of the girlfriend and the girlfriend pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter, child endangerment. The girlfriend was sentenced a minimum of 22 years. The girlfriend, the sister, had received a 8-year term. TAKODA's estate sued the county, which they reached $3.25 million, which the biggest portion was going to TAKODA's 3 siblings, as well as the mother and grandmother receiving a portion. Ohio House of Representatives passed a bill in 2021 to provide more accountability and oversight to child abuse reporting in the wake of TAKODA's death because of the years of abuse. My thoughts. I don't even know what to say, honestly. I don't know what to say. As I keep saying, a lot of these stories, the one thing they all have in common is they make sure they pull these children away from everybody so they can do what they want. The stuff that this child went through, I can't even imagine my adult self dealing with. I know as a female, having a male place his body part inside my rear ain't that comfortable. You got to do some things. And you talking about somebody angry and taking a foreign object that definitely ain't got no place being there and just ramming it. it's like the how he made it as long as he did with all the torture. Like, I think back to slavery. The things, like, imagine these people, they live, but some didn't, you know, getting whipped till you got bruises on you. You're like, have you ever seen Roots? Like, it's too deep for my comprehension to even have a response. As I say, as I say, make sure y'all paying attention. Make sure y'all paying attention to these kids, whether they're yours or somebody else's. Thank you for watching.